Okay, so I'll start you off with an easy question. How did
Sure.
you start your music career?
I started doing music when I was around 6. My parents put me in piano lessons, and I wound up doing classical piano for about 10 years. I think like any kid, I was maybe a little bit resistant to practicing all the time, but I wound up falling in love with it kind of in my teens. I started teaching myself guitar, developing my voice a little bit. That didn't come until a bit later, but yeah, I fell in love with collecting different kinds of instruments and learning how to play them. And I was in band all throughout school, both in concert band and jazz band. I played the tenor saxophone and the flute. And yeah, the piano was a really awesome like foundation to take on all the rest of that. And then I developed my own style down the road, and it's still continuing to kind of grow in that direction.
Okay, and are you the only one in your family that has a musical background?
No, no, my dad did all sorts of band. He's from New Zealand, so he did all sorts of band and stuff at school when he was a kid, and he loves to play around with different instruments. Both my brothers did piano lessons as well, and we all did band. And my youngest brother is a he's actually, despite the fact that he's quite young, he's already become a great music producer kind of on his own. He produces his own music. My other brother was a drum teacher for many years, and my mom doesn't do any of the musical sides of things, but she is a visual artist, so she paints, and we're just a very artsy family overall.
Okay, and
Yeah.
why did you decide to take your career to the next level?
I had a lot of people telling me that even though I was pretty shy about my singing voice, the few people that would hear me, they would tell me that they quite liked it. And um, as my confidence grew with that, I started kind of writing a little bit more. And then, you know what, I got my first paying gig, and people really kind of responded well to my style and what I was playing. And I really enjoyed curating shows for like different events and different venues and themes. And yeah, it's such a fun gig, even though like I get paid for it. Sometimes it doesn't feel like work.
Okay, and
Yeah.
what would you describe your genre to be?
Yeah, in fact, you know what? This is a conversation I was having with my mom not too long ago, and I need to reach out to the fellow that helped me record some of my music because I'm not 100% sure. I I would say singer-songwriter. I probably fall within somewhere within like the folk genre. Maybe some elements of like alt country, and maybe some soul jazz stuff, but just as a general overlying genre, I would say folk, and then there's some little nuances in there as well.
Right, and do you have any passions besides music?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty passionate about learning about healthcare and the human body. It's very, very different from obviously the music side of things, but I think it's really fascinating. And I also love a lot of other artsy things. I'm a big nerd when it comes to like knitting and crocheting. I love doing those things. And I really love geography, like just like learning about countries and like, things happening around the world. And yeah, so anything that I can kind of spend a few hours going down the rabbit hole on, usually on YouTube. I have like little micro passions that I'm passionate about for a day, and then I get over it.
Right. Do you have any passions, or are you a songwriter?
I am, yeah, yeah.
And what do you have a process when you write your songs?
I hear like a word or something, and I'm like, oh, like that sounds like a cool theme. Or I hear like two words that maybe they rhyme, and I'm like, oh, those would be cool in like in a song setting. And then I kind of write based around that. I've written two of my songs are based on the ones that I've actually one that I've just released, and one that I'll be releasing I guess next month. So when it comes out, it'll be March 2023. Um, and they're about personal experiences, but then I've also written some songs that are just made up stories that I've come up with. Sometimes they're about friends' stories, and yeah, sometimes they're completely fictional. But I just there's not really much of a process. As there is much with most of my life, I don't follow a strict set of rules. kind of play back and forth and see what works, and eventually a song becomes of it.
Cool. And do you suffer from writer's block at all?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you handle that?
Um, you know what? Sometimes it's just a matter of taking a day or two just away. Just, okay, clearly I'm not in a creative mindset today. Let's go do something else. Let's go utilize a different part of my brain, and then come back to this. And usually like that definitely helps because, sometimes you get your blinders on when you're trying to write a song and you're just so hyper focused, and it becomes problematic because you just don't have any sort of like outside stimulation, and sometimes that's helpful. So go out, run some errands, and oftentimes I'll come back and I'll sit down and I'll be in a completely different headspace, and I'm able to kind of narrow in a little bit more on it.
Okay. Do you have a favorite song you wrote or sung?
Mm, um, so actually, I'm gonna pick two. My two favorite songs are the ones that I released in December, and then the one that's coming out next month. I can give you a little bit of backstory about both of those. The one that just came out in December is a song about actually the street that I grew up in my town, and we moved away from it when I was in the fifth grade, and then I wound up moving back to it later, like as an adult, a couple houses down from where I'd been living as a kid, and it was just a story about kind of coming full circle and seeing things that haven't changed but that you can look at differently from an adult set of eyes. So that was really cool, kind of just watching that part of my childhood remain pretty constant, but seeing how I've changed. So that song is called Grow Young. And then the one that's coming out next month is about a refugee family that I met years ago while waitressing at a restaurant. And it's just on a surface level, it's kind of about it's each verse is set in a different city. Um, their travels from coming into Canada in Toronto, and then they were in Trois Rivières in Quebec for a little bit, and then they wound up just south of Calgary. Yeah, but it was just about their kind of struggles and their journey throughout Canada arriving here. And one of the verses is actually in French because I took French immersion for many years as a kid, and they were in Trois Rivières and they learned to speak some French there, so I felt like that verse probably deserved to be in French.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you have a fallback option in case your music career didn't go the way you wanted?
I mean, it's still not my full-time job. I'm still
Okay.
in school. And I still work a variety of other jobs. I'd love to see how far I can go with music. But yeah, also at this point, my goal, because what I'm taking in school, vitally different from what I'm doing musically wise. I would love to be a doctor. So yeah, if you ever see me singing around the halls of an ER, it's that'll be my dream job, just performing in in patient wards.
Oh, okay. When was the
Um,
last time you performed?
I performed at in Lake Louise on February 15th, and then I was there the week before. And then I'm performing there again next month. And yeah, I've been a resident musician there for quite a few years. They bring me in for some private events, and it's lovely meeting people from all over. And yeah, it's nice. Things are starting to pick up again post COVID. And yeah, I forgot how much I enjoyed performing live.
That's cool. Um, what do you do before you perform and after you perform? Do you have a ritual, a process, or do you just go with the flow?
Always a cup of tea, usually a snack. Definitely I try to hydrate as much as possible, lubricate the vocal cords. I've never really been one to do like a lot of like vocal warm-ups, but I'll still, just do some almost like meditative breathing just to kind of warm the lungs up a little bit. And yeah, I usually at least take a couple minutes for myself just to kind of focus my attention into what's happening. I don't write down like any set lists. I just kind of perform what comes to me in the moment, unless, I'm scheduled to perform for, 45 minutes, I want to make sure I'm playing like enough songs to meet that 45 minutes and then take a break. But yeah, I usually don't write down any set lists. I just kind of find what songs that I already have in my repertoire to fit the energy of the room. If it's like a kind of higher, louder energy room, then I'll, play some more upbeat things. If it's very kind of quiet, then, I'll do some of the slower ones.
Right. What's it like to perform on stage for you?
It used to be very nerve-wracking. Again, I it took me probably up until I was around, I'm 27 now. It took me probably up until I was 19, 20 to be really confident about my singing voice. But yeah, I generally don't have a whole lot of stage fright these days. I I enjoy having, audience reactions to things. If you've ever talked to a musician, you know that a lot of times they'll match like the audience's energy and, kind of how they're responding to things. I enjoy it. Every show is really different. It's exciting to see and meet people, before and after my sets and just chat with them and, get an idea for what their thoughts were, what their experiences were. And yeah, I really enjoy performing on stage.
Is there a favorite place you like to perform at?
Um, Favorite place. You know what, not a favorite place, but a favorite type of place. I do like cafes. I love performing in, like little coffee shops. I've performed all sorts of places. I've done private events. I've done, full on stage events. I've done where I'm just background noise, which is totally fine. Um, but I love performing in kind of cafe style settings because um, I find them to be like really cozy and intimate, and they're probably hands down my favorite place.
Cool, cool. And is there a dream place you want to perform at?
Dream place. I I'd really like to do not a venue, but I've got dual citizenship with New Zealand. I'd really like to do some more performing down in New Zealand and spend some more time down there. And it doesn't matter the venue as long as I get to go back to my other home for a little bit and kind of see a bunch of people.
Right. And do you do any touring?
No, not officially. I was planning some proper tour dates prior to COVID, and then that kind of put a wrench in things for a bit. I am trying to plan potentially for 2024, maybe even 2025, doing a bit of touring around the Gulf Islands, just between Vancouver and Victoria. Um, because we went out there quite a few years ago and I loved it. And there's a lot of very cool um, artsy venues out there that I think would be a lot of fun to perform in.
Awesome. And um, is there anything you do differently or change in your music career? Or are you happy with what you've accomplished so far?
I would have started trying to do some recording earlier. I only just did recorded my original music last year, and I would like to be recording more of it. I've got a great producer who lives in High River, Paul Zacharias. If anybody's around the area and looking to record some music, he owns a studio called Wheelhouse Sound, and he was very, very patient with me as I was learning how to properly record because I had been performing live for so long. And he did an amazing job of putting my songs together. I would have um, dipped my toes into the recording scene earlier because I had a lot of people asking me, "Oh, when can we listen to your music?" And I would always just say, "I've got some really rough versions of them on YouTube or rough tracks." But yeah, now that I've got those out, it's definitely something I'd like to do a lot more of going forward.
Okay. And where do you see yourself in 10 years with your music career?
10 years. Definitely have an album out, full album, not just the two songs that I've got now. Um, I'd like to be doing more collaborations with other artists that are maybe within the same genre of music as me. I love kind of East Coast folk music and kind of Scottish Celtic folk music. And I've worked with a few musicians along those lines in the last couple of years. I'd love to do more of that. I would love to be doing more touring and more kind of regular shows. And yeah, I'd like to be writing a lot more. I'd like time to write a lot more, which is funny because if I'm a doctor, who knows how much time I'm gonna have.
Right. And
Yeah.
for this next little bit, we're going to switch it up. So I'm going to ask some questions about you just to get to know you better.
Okay, sure.
What's your favorite color?
Red, dark red.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's cozy. I like fall.
Okay.
Like it's like kind of like this like maroon red that I'm wearing right now. And like same with like my watch. Definitely my favorite color. It's cozy, and I'm also the world's biggest Christmas person, and I think it just reminds me of Christmas.
Okay, so I was going to ask you next what is your favorite holiday, but I think you already answered that one.
There you go. There you go. It would be Christmas. And it's yeah, just for the coziness and the cozy feel and candles and stuff like that. Yeah,
Mhm. What is your most prized possession?
my cat.
Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got like physical non-living items. Let me think about this. Um, prized possession. Some of my instruments, maybe, I would say. Um, yeah, love my instruments. I've got a teddy bear that I've had since I was like a baby, and my dad got it for me, and like I don't care how old I get, I'm always gonna have it. Yeah, but yeah, immediate response would be my cat.
Okay, and next question, how many animals do you have?
There you go. I'm like ahead of you with all of this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have just well, I live by myself. I consider all of my parents' animals to also be my animals, and they've got two cats and a dog and everything. I have just a cat, and I've got three fish tanks, and I've got a variety of different fish in them. And actually, I've got two canaries, like birds as well, but they live up with my parents because there's more room at their house.
Okay, and what is your favorite animal?
Uh, so non-pet animal, I like seals and sea lions. Yeah,
That's an interesting answer.
love them. I love them so much.
Okay. Uh, what is your favorite memory?
Favorite memory. Ooh, I got a few. There was one a couple years ago. It was actually on Christmas Day, I think. We were all like my I've got two younger brothers, and all five of us, including my parents, we went down and we walked their dogs down by the river, and I've got some like really great photos of my brothers and I, and one of them's throwing snow up in the air, and it's yeah, that was a pretty special day. Yeah, I mean I could go on and on forever about just wonderful things that have happened, but yeah, that probably that one stands out.
That's a good answer. And you also, my next question was going to be, do you have any siblings? But you already answered that one as well.
It's like I'm on to you.
Yeah, it's like you got the script, even though I don't have the script.
Yeah.
What's the coolest place you've traveled?
Coolest place I've traveled. Um, I haven't done as much traveling as I would like to, but I mean, there are some beautiful parts of New Zealand. I think one of my favorite places that I could go back to over and over, though, would be Salt Spring Island, which is one of those Gulf islands that I was talking about touring around. I don't know if you've ever been. It's great. A lot of Canada's like big artists live out there. Like Robert Bateman lives or he's got a place on Salt Spring Island. It's a very artsy area, and you can drive around it usually in a day, and you can go to all these different kinds of like little shops and tapestry makers and lavender farms and all these things, and it's a gorgeous little place to visit.
Okay, and what is your greatest accomplishment in your life?
Greatest accomplishment. Hard hitting questions. You know what? Taking care is. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and for anybody that's got type 1 diabetes, it's a pain in the butt condition to have, and it's yeah. So having been able to take care of that for over 11 years, I'm always amazed at how far the technology has come with how to take care of that. But that's definitely a big accomplishment.
Wow, that's cool and amazing.
Yeah.
Um, what does your average week look like?
Don't have an average week.
No?
Pure chaos. Chaos all the time. I work quite a few jobs and no 2 days ever look the same. I was having this conversation with somebody this morning, at the doctor's appointment. He goes, "Okay, well, what do you do on weekends?" And I'm like, my weekends don't look any different than a weekday. I'm usually working somewhere, any given day. Get some errands done, go home, play a little bit of guitar. I spend probably at least every other day up at my parents' house. Just in the evening, I'll pop by for a few hours and say hi, hang out, watch a TV show with my mom, have a cup of tea. Last night I was up there and we were doing these ridiculous like little spa stick your hands in wax things to make your hands all nice. And then while our hands were covered in wax and with these like wax gloves on, my younger brother goes, "Oh my gosh, you can see the northern lights outside." So we run up to the front window. My mom and I are sitting there with these big globs of wax in our hands, looking out at these northern lights, which were absolutely incredible, by the way. I've never seen them that gorgeous. And it, like, I live in Okotoks, it's right outside city, so or the city of Calgary, so you'd think that, all the light pollution, but they were absolutely stunning. And I'm currently in Canmore, and they're supposed to be really good tonight too. So my week
Cool.
can look like absolutely anything.
Awesome. What do you have any favorite artists or bands?
Yeah, like kind of really well-known bands and artists. I like Mumford and Sons, the Lumineers, anything that's really just kind of like fun and like folky you can dance to. Um, I like Ruben and the Dark. They're another great band. I saw them in Camrose a couple years ago. Dan Mangan, um, John Bryant. I believe he's originally from the East Coast. I think he lives out in Vancouver now. He's a great musician as well. Gordon Lightfoot. Lots of really good, like Canadian kind of folky musicians.
Right. Do you have any favorite TV shows or movies?
My favorite kids movie is The Emperor's New Groove. I will never get tired of that movie. Um, I I like that 70s show. I've always liked that 70s show. It's my kind of humor. I find it really funny. I don't know if you're too young to like to know much about that 70s show, but
No, I've seen
it's
all the episodes.
oh, perfect. Then you're on the same page. Amazing. Yeah, so childhood movie and then an adult movie. I don't know. We're from New Zealand. I like Lord of the Rings. I think I'm not like, a diehard, you know, fan, but I have met Jonathan Rhys Davies, who plays Gimli, at some sort. It was like an Armageddon Comic Con type thing down in New Zealand, and yeah, any of those movies.
Cool, cool. Who's your idol, if you have one?
Um, yeah, I probably don't have any. There's a lot of people I admire, but I don't have like one specific idol. Um, I really, I admire my parents a lot for sure. For a lot of the stuff that they've done, they're both very, very hard workers. But I don't think I've got any one specific idol.
Okay, and to counter that, do you have a musician idol, someone you kind of base your music off of or can relate to with music?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know much about his life story, or like really most of his personal details. I know I think he's from Texas, and I think he was in the US military for a little while. But Zach Bryan, who is not to be confused with Luke Bryan, but Zach Bryan,
Yeah,
is I listen to like a lot of his lyrics and I'm like, these are just like absolutely ingenious lyrics, and I just aspire to be able to have that level of creativity that I can string words together like he can.
right. What are you most thankful for?
Modern medicine. Yeah.
Okay,
Modern medicine. It's incredible how far yeah, a lot of things have come again, being a type 1 diabetic and just the technology. very, very, very grateful for all of that.
Awesome. What's one thing you wish you could do that you haven't done yet?
Get my pilot's license. I'd love
Okay.
to fly like a little, just like a little Cessna, like a little plane. I know that, it fuel costs a lot and to get your license costs a lot, but that's like one of those things that, what, if I have the time and the funding at some point I'd really like to do.
Awesome. Do you have any merchandise?
No merchandise. I have a song that is available for download at the moment. The other one will be out next month. Um, yeah, possibly merch to come at some point.
Okay, cool. So when it does come, I'll have to get some.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd appreciate that.
And in the end here, is there anyone you'd like to shout out or promote?
Yeah, my my parents for helping me fund the recording of my two songs. Absolutely, they were absolutely pivotal in making that happen. My again, my sound engineer, my producer, in his studio. So Paul Zacharias, Wheelhouse Sound in High River, Alberta. And then my younger brother, because he's got some really, really cool stuff up and coming. He'll be releasing some of his own music in the next, I think, probably a couple months. Yeah, his name is Gareth Key, Gareth, and then just Key like key to a door.
Awesome. And lastly, is there anything else you'd like to chat about with me or in general? I'll give you the floor. So if there's anything you'd like to say or anything like that, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, you know what? I just really appreciate you reaching out to do this interview with me. I think it's so super cool that you're doing all this. And yeah, I don't think anything else that I want to touch on. If anybody does want to find me, my website is hannahtaylor.com or .ca, just HANNA Taylor, TAYLOR.com. And yeah, other than that, I think I'm good.
Awesome. Well, I thank you for letting me reach out to you and replying so that we could set up this
Of
interview.
course, of course. Yeah,
And
awesome.
you have a great head on your shoulders, and I
Oh,
think
thank
what you're doing is amazing, and you're making good music. So I hope you keep doing that. And
Yeah,
I'd like to know when the merch comes out so I can get some. And if you're ever
please.
performing in Leduc or Edmonton or anything like that, let me
Oh,
know because I'll be sure I want to
absolutely.
be there.
Actually, you know what? One of my back to your question about my favorite venues, I performed once at the Citadel Theater. For I opened like in the kind of lounge area before one of their musicals that they had. So that was a really cool show that I did. So I'll let you know if I'm up in the area.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
All right, have a good one, Dylan. Thanks so much.
Goodbye.